Stiller from the Department of Communication Studies. I'm thrilled and delighted that you took the time to be here. First of all, let's call it out for the end of the semester. Woo! Come on, come on, come on. I know, there's lots of grading and exams and projects, and I get that. And it doesn't really feel like spring, but it is. But again, I do want to thank you for being here tonight. The performance you're going to see tonight is an original, so this is our world premiere, I suppose we could say. This comes from the class called Communication and Storytelling, which is one of the 2 classes that I teach every semester. I absolutely love it, and this group was extraordinary and exceptional. The course asks students to write their own narrative all semester, telling all the stories, the big ones, and even the small, tiny little moments of life that they want to share within the framework of the class. And then they designed this final performance for public viewing, and you're here tonight, so I want to thank you. This piece is about self-acceptance. That was their general title. And/or, what advice would you give to yourself, knowing what you know now? What would you have told yourselves before? So without any further ado, this is real. Okay, let's save it. This is real. This is me. Enjoy. Yeah.
We thought before we began telling you the stories of our lives, we should probably tell you a little bit about us.
So we figured we'd start at the beginning.
And try to answer the question,
Where
are you from?
I'm from Beijing.
I'm from the big city.
And a Malaysian mother.
I'm from my parents' love.
I don't even fucking know.
I'm from Cleveland, Michigan, Ithaca, and Montclair.
I'm from my Syria. And a lot of love and a lot of hurt. I'm from wherever I choose to be.
I'm from wherever the food is.
I'm from uncertainty and holding grudges.
I'm from my childhood.
I'm from painful memories in the ocean.
From divorce and 2 complete opposites.
I'm from war.
Self-acceptance is a blur.
So tonight, we are here trying to move forward.
We've got some more packing to do before we leave.
But here's what we're taking with us.
Forgiveness and courage.
More love.
Invisible wings.
Peace and self-acceptance.
Pride.
All of our experiences.
Feelings. Pizzazz. Hope.
Something to eat.
Party hats.
Cool coats. All my imperfections.
New seeds to plant.
And I tattoo myself.
The
person
I know I am.
Self-acceptance is probably one of the hardest journeys that all of us go on. So I invite all of you in the audience tonight to put yourselves in the shoes of our storytellers today and see a bit of yourself in all of us.
There's a quote from Batman, I don't know if you know it, where Bruce Wayne says, "A hero can be anything, even something as simple as a person putting his coat on the shoulders of a young boy to let him know that the world hasn't ended." I wanted to share with you today and start things off a story of a time when I learned what it means to be a hero. This is the story of a powerful lesson I learned about how important it is to be there for one another. I never thought that I grew up particularly sheltered, but I was aware of the fact that my world was pretty small. I grew up in a white upper-middle-class suburb right by the ocean in southern Rhode Island, and nothing ever really changed, which is why coming to Boston my freshman year felt like a really exciting opportunity. And I quickly learned that with the good experiences also came some not-so-good ones. So 4 or 5 weeks into the semester of my freshman year, I was walking down Huntington Avenue, as many of us do multiple times a day. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that right between B-Hop and Amelia's, there's actually a halfway house. So I was walking down the street, it was this beautiful early afternoon in October, and I saw this guy standing outside of the halfway house, and then there were gunshots. This guy just went down, and it took me a second to figure out what happened, but I quickly came to understand that I had just watched somebody get shot. So I'm standing there, and this kid's laying on the ground maybe 4 or 5 feet in front of me. And he was a kid. I was 18 at the time, and he was no more than 5 years older than I was. And he's standing there, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he's laying there, and he's starting to bleed. And I'm frozen. I have no idea what to do, and he looks me dead in the eye, and he looks up at me, and all he says is, "Please." And you know what I did? I turned around, and I walked away. I didn't even run. It was like I realized I forgot an umbrella or something, and I just turned and I left. I could hear the people around me start to react, and I just kept walking, straight home, straight to my dorm room. You could say that next I had a little bit of a nervous breakdown. For the next 2 days, I couldn't leave my room. I pretty much alternated between laying in bed, staring at my wall, and just pacing my little 8x10 space. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't get his face or his voice or the blood on the sidewalk in my head. I was scared. For the first time in my life, I had truly been unsettled by something. I had witnessed something that I had never truly believed I'd ever see, especially not something that closely, and the truth is that it scared the shit out of me. More than anything, I felt this overwhelming sense of guilt. It's not that I really thought that I could have done anything, but at the same time, I hadn't even tried. I'd walked away. The next night, my sister called me, just because she and I talked weekly on FaceTime at that point. She took one look at my face, and she asked me what was wrong, and I started to tell her, and she immediately told me that she was coming. In the middle of the night, she dropped everything. She drove an hour and a half to Boston. She got there around midnight, and we sat in her car outside of my dorm for the next half hour or so, and I told her everything, and that was when I cried, and I just let it all out. She took me to McDonald's, she drove me back to Rhode Island, she took me to her house and let me sleep in her bed until my parents could come get me the next morning. That was the moment that I understood what being a hero was. And that was the moment that I understood why I had been so horrified with my own reaction, or I guess more accurately, total lack thereof. It's not that I ever thought I could be a hero. I never thought that I'd be the type of person to chase somebody down the street or take a gunshot for someone, but at the same time, I had always thought that when somebody needed me the most, I could just be there. Because that's what my sister did for me. I needed help, and it was as simple as her being there and telling me it was going to be okay. Because I think about myself, had I been in that situation, had I been the one laying on the sidewalk, and I think about how scary and how sad and how lonely that has to feel, and how all I would want was just someone to be there and tell me that it was going to be all right. I did, for the record, look everything up a couple days after I calmed down. Apparently the kid's injuries weren't too bad. He was conscious and sitting up by the time emergency personnel got there, and he lived, so that's great. But that moment for me, even though it lasted maybe 10 seconds, completely changed who I was as a person. I told myself that day that I would never again turn my back on someone or walk away from somebody in a time of need. I told myself that I would never let fear or uncertainty stop me from being there for someone when they needed me the most. And even though it feels like a selfish takeaway at times, I have, over the past few years, thought about the fact that maybe it could have been me. Had I been 4 or 5 feet ahead of where I was walking, had the wind blown a little differently, had whoever pulled the trigger been a worse shot, it could have been me laying on the sidewalk and needing help. I'm sensitive and I'm emotional. I wear my heart on my sleeve too much. I say how I'm feeling too much. I tell the people in my life that I love them and I care for them, probably to the point where it gets weird, but I would so much rather do that than not have the people in my life know that I want to be there for them should they ever need me. I hate cliches, but our lives are incredibly short, and at the end of them, all we really have is each other. I've been fortunate enough that I've never been put in that sort of situation again, but I'd like to think that this is a lesson I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. I hope that at the end of the day, I could be there for someone and place that coat on their shoulders when they need it the most. Even though there are times when it might feel like an overwhelming responsibility, the ability to be there for others and have them be there for us is one of the greatest gifts that we're given. Ultimately, all we have is each other, and the ability to love one another is, I think, one of the most beautiful things that we have, and is something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
When I was young, I believed that everyone would have a pair of invisible wings. Undergoing death in life, I really understand the meaning of adamancy. And I believe that it would be my invisible wings and can take me to fly in my own sky. If I die young, bury me in satin, lay me down on a Bed of roses, sink me in the river of dawn. Send me away with the words of a love song. As the lyric, it's not me but my father laying in a rose bed. The last time I saw him, 8 years ago, he dressed in a suit and was quietly laying in a satin bed. There are a lot of white roses around it. That was his funeral. All this came so suddenly without warning. Even today, I can vivid of my father's illnesses. After I became a TV hostess in China, and everybody saw that my life should go on so smoothly, I will enter the entertainment business as soon as possible. But at that time, a grievous news came. My father suffered a serious illnesses. I knew at that time my father needed our encouragement, care, and love. So I canceled all the hosting work. In addition to go to school, I just accompany with my father's every day to the hospital. Well, no miracle visited me. The failure of the operations announced that my dad left me forever in 2010. It's like a bolt from the blue sky that made my world dark and chilling. At that time, I cannot concentrate on studies. My grade plummeted. And in a class, I cannot concentrate on listening. I have a blank mind. I don't know what happens, but maybe at that time I know I will not have a father anymore. I standing in the broadcasting studio and forgot everything. So I tried to abandon the hosting contract and leave the stage. But I remember once my dad told me before the last operations, no matter what happens, you have to be strong. Mind you, you are the plum flower smelling to the icy snow. According to that, I began to learn to be strong. I began to learn independence. I began to understand the reality and began to understand the responsibility that I have to assume, and began to take care of my mother and my grandparents. In addition, I tried some new challenges, like starring in an important role in the drama, and in 2014, I firmly signed the artist management call and became an official hostess. But I knew I have one thing not completed, but I must to do. Studying in the United States was my father's wish. Because, to be honest, the level of education in the United States is much better than in China. My father wanted me to have a bigger and better field to develop my career in the future. So he originally wanted me to study in the United States in my high school. But at that time, the time is too short, and my mother didn't came out of the sadness, and I need to take care of her. So maybe now is the time for me to work hard for my father's dream. And I spent a whole year studying TOEFL and SAT. And finally, I came to the United States and entered Northeastern University, studying my favorite subject, communication and theater. Till now, my father's words came over again and again. No matter what difficulties I met, I won't shrink back. For my dad has planted a seed of plum flower in my heart. I survived the difficult times, and I accept the reality without complaining, crying, or sinking. I believe that the invisible wings named adamantly can help me to fly in my own sky. Originally, this is a letter to my father, but now it's more like a letter to myself. I would like to tell my father that I'm okay. I'm okay to study here. I'm okay to live in a different place. I'm okay to take care of myself and also take care of my mother. And I'm okay. Don't worry about me. Your daughter has grown up. And I knew that my father will watch me in some places. The last sentence I want to say to him is, thank you, and I love you. Thank you.
Who teaches you how to love? When I was born, from the moment I opened my eyes, I knew it was love at first sight. I think all of us here can share the fact that our first moment of empathy was with our mother. My mother is where I get my Thai side. She was a tall, gentle, soft-spoken, but strong-willed woman. She had a lot of interests, including food, animals, art, reading, and she imparted all of her influence and all of her passion onto my sister and I. My mom taught us a lot of things as well, especially how to care for one another, how to be empathetic. And my mom taught by example. I remember her treating strangers she's never met, people whose names she's never heard. I remember her treating them with such kindness and respect and care. She really cared for strangers that she's never met. And I remember back then when I was young, I looked upon how she treated these people, and I saw it as the way I ought to act, the way I ought to act to other people. And over time, I started to think about this. And when I was younger, I was in school, in grade school. I was a happy and expressive kid. I remember helping my friends with homework whenever they needed it. I remember giving food to people with no snacks or lunch or food during lunchtime. I was a happy kid back then. I was happy with my mother. In 2007, complications happened. My mother was diagnosed with leukemia, and in 2008, on her birthday, she passed away. My sister was 1, I was 10, and it took a lot of my humanity out of me, and it plunged me into a deep, dark well. And I remember building a wall around myself to protect me from the pain, the harsh emotions and feelings that came with her death. And I shoved away my friends, my family, people who I loved because I was afraid to connect with them, to care about them, because it reminded me of the care my mother gave me. And caring about them reminded me of what I was missing, my mother's love and care. And that made me into a bitter, bitter person. I remember going back to school and bullying people, teasing people, because it made me feel good. It built up my suit of armor, and it filled a hole inside of me which was taken out after my mother passed away. I isolated myself from all my friends and family, and I stopped feeling their emotions and feeling their problems. I stopped seeing them, feeling them as humans. Over time, as I coped with my mother's death, I gradually sort of regained my humanity, so to speak. And it didn't happen at one specific point in my life. It happened slowly and gradually over time, and it developed in a mysterious way. But I remember just going through that journey and it being tough. And I remember the little things that helped me kind of get through that journey and find my empathy and find myself again. And one of that was my discovery of my passion for the arts, and especially my passion for theater. I remember in freshman year of high school, I took a chance and I tried out for my high school play, my freshman play, and I remember being on stage, having a connection, being on stage and having a connection to the script, to the other actors on stage, to the audience members. That connection made me feel happy, alive. It brought me back to when I was with my mother, back to when I was a child and when I was happiest. And after my mother passed away, the arts have really been a way for me to express myself and a way to connect to other people. It's after finding my passion for film, for example, it's been a way for me to break down the walls I built up around myself after my mother passed away. It's been a way for me to reach out and connect to the people I once loved and lost at that moment. And so from my mother's death to now, I'm still learning how to empathize with other people. I'm still learning how to connect with others. When people see me in the cinema and watching a sad movie, or when people see me hearing a sad story, they sometimes see me stone-faced. But they don't understand the volcano of emotions that's going on inside my body that just wants to erupt. The valve that I want to break, but can't for some reason. So I'm still learning. If I had to tell my younger self one thing, it'd be this. My mother's death didn't make you a weaker and less of a person, but instead, it made you who you are today, a strong, unique, and caring person. Thank you.
Never be so concerned and stuck in the past so that you forget about the beauty in the present. And the whole idea about staying in the present, people have been talking about it all the time, let it get well on top of it. But how many of you here can raise your hand with confidence saying you can, but how many of you here can confidently raise your hand and say you can get over with the past and stuff that you're not get over yourself with? Maybe you think you did it by ignoring your ex's social media post and hashtag yourself captioning with head up and move on. Maybe that's your own interpretation. Well, I don't know. But gotta be honest with you, I have not been able to do that. And for quite a long time, I have not been able to possess the power to truly let go, to stop myself from rehashing moment to moment in the past and throwing everything behind. Sometimes I can't get over myself when I wrap my head around stuff that happened to me that I have done but could have done better. Allow me to have this little throwback to senior year at high school. Well, it was a senior year, it was like before college, it was one critical year, and everyone's twitchy and anxious about going to college and deciding where to spend their next 4 years of their life at. Except this guy, our high school counselor. When it comes to helping us make those kind of decisions, he was extremely careless and indifferent. And as he would spend half of the class time playing his Oregon Duck football pump-up video and the other half explaining his punchline that no one could ever get. Obviously, needless to say, he was wasting his time, and more importantly, our time. I walk in the classroom with the hope that something could have changed today, but looks like it's a thin hope to cling to. And I will just walk out of the classroom saying, okay, tomorrow's the day. It's not today, if it's tomorrow. But it's also just fantasy. Nothing's ever changed. But what riles me up even more is not anyone in the classroom or anything that happened to me in that class. It was actually my permission and my tolerance, my leniency for those things that happened to me. I did not say the thing because I believed things would change as it flowed, but it didn't. Well, fortunately, times goes forward instead of backward. And things will always get better as we think. But things will happen. And it's going to happen in a way that you're not going to like it, in a way that you're not going to expect it to. And I want to say, you would just allow these things to happen to you, and why don't you just let these things be it? Leave it to it. And after graduating high school, I had this longest summer ever in my life, and I just sat in my house. I was just had a moment to myself. I would just think, well, why don't I preserve those pieces of unpleasant past in my secret little museum of mine? Even launch a patent for it, because that only solely belongs to you. Well, if I could, but I couldn't. Things happen, and no matter how bad it was, and no matter how regretful you could get, it happened, and every new day was a new package. I want to end my speech by saying that I could not hand you a perfect formula, a secret prescription to each of you, because I think each person is a different personality, is a different set of unique set, mind, and soul. So I want to say, when in the future you come across with hatred, resentment, even unpleasantness, anything that could highly likely happen, I want you to stick to your present, breathe in the air right in front of you, because that's one thing for sure. Thank you, everyone.
Give Kelly a second. Hey, guys. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you remember how much you hated your big toe? How big it is. I have a big toe, probably this big, the size of a grape. And I would do anything to avoid showing it off. I would not wear open-toed shoes. I refused because I was so insecure. No matter what, if there was a cute guy, I would crinkle my feet and hide them in the corner thinking like, this made me so ugly if he saw my big toes. Do you remember how insecure you used to get when you would take off your shirt? How you just wanted to be like the girls in the magazines? Something that makes a woman so beautiful you always lacked according to societal norms? That you would wear something with more padding than the bed you lay in at night? Do you remember reading about the perfect vagina? How movie stars were getting surgery to make theirs more tight and perfectly shaped? And how when you looked down at yours, you knew it didn't look like that, and you looked with shame? Do you remember when you would look in the mirror and if you turned your head sideways, all you could see was a bird, and because of that you deemed you weren't beautiful? Do you remember how when you would lay with a guy in bed and get on top of him, you felt so insecure because all you know is guys watching this porn, and you know your body can't move like that. So you'd get the perfect amount of drunk just so you could feel secure on top of them. Do you remember doing cocaine? How you told yourself you would never do it? How it affected your parents' lives and that's the reason they're not in it? But you wanted to fit in. You wanted to feel normal. So you did it anyways. How it took your friend overdosing last year for you to finally quit. But you felt guilty because the 15, 20 times that you did it, that could have been you. Do you remember not feeling good enough, needing a man to make you feel whole? Do you remember that when someone tells you they love you for who you are, and when you're finally yourself, they don't love you anymore? And that it wasn't until 3 months ago you realized you could be on your own, that you didn't need someone to make you whole. So I ask all of you, we are made of a million things, but we choose to look at the few things we are not. I ask everyone here to demand more from the people you surround yourself with, but also demand more from yourself. When I look around, I see my beautiful classmates, and at first I walked in and all I saw was the exterior of them. But because of them, they have let down their walls, and I know everything about all of them. Now I wanted to pull something out, and when I call your name, I would like you guys to stand up. Kelly, can you please stand? When I look in the mirror and I see Kelly, I see, yes, she's beautiful, but she's bold. She's out there. Her outfits are on point. And that girl does not give a damn about what anyone thinks. And I look up to you. Rainy. Everyone, this is Rainy. When I see Rainy, yeah, you have great style, but she's so much more than that. She's a hostess back in China. She has more courage to come across this country and be here and learn a new language than anyone I know. And sometimes she talks so poetically. Franco. Franco, you surprise me. You know, every speech you give is different, but this man, you're going places. And I wish you the best of luck on your way, if you get into, you know, where. Antong, stand up. here? Screw your roommate. They're so cool. And your socks, they're amazing. Oriana. Girl, I met you in the beginning of class, and you were so shy and quiet, and honestly, you are one of the coolest people I know. You are so artistic, just like the definition of like coffee shop, artsy, and keep going. Like, I want to be you. Jeremy, please stand. Jeremy, yes, you're tall, but you're so much more than just a tall person. People look at Jeremy and all they think is this basketball player. When you hear his speech, this man is meant to perform. He's so good. He is the funniest person I know, and is so much more than just being tall. Sila, you are one of the strongest people I know. You think I'm strong? I could not imagine going through what you went through, and you are so happy every day, and I'll never forget the little girl voice you made. It was the best speech ever. Kata. I don't want to give too much away about Kata, but we had a group project together. And there's just a side of her you're going to see that, like, I didn't even know existed. And it's amazing. Shauna, you're so unapologetically yourself. You are so cool and so caring. And, like, I totally get why kids love you, because you go up there every day with so much confidence. You are one of the most confident people I know. And I don't know why you ever doubt yourself. Okay, Richard? First of all, Richard, your voice is so smooth. It gets me going every time. Not in like a sexual way. In like a good way. It might have come out wrong. But all I wanted to say is you're a huge movie fanatic, and I would have not known that if it wasn't for this class. Hannah, I love you, girl. We're meant to be best friends. Your outfits are so cool. You're so cool. I love you. Shaylee, so sweet and innocent looking, but inside of her is this huge person with the biggest personality ever. Joey, a quiet soul, but really not, because don't drink too much, Joey. I remember that story. And Green Day, this man loves Green Day. Chewy, you speak with poet, like you talk like a poet. You're so amazing, and each story you give, I'm so just drawn to the way you speak. I just love it so much. And Henry, everyone poops, and if this record company, if they don't take you, they don't deserve you. And lastly, Professor P, I wanted to thank you so much, because if it wasn't for you, all of these people I would have just seen. I wouldn't have known them for who they are. And I want to thank you, because there's not a lot of classes at Northeastern like this that get to really allow us to become connected. And I feel like we're all friends. We've all become so close together, and I can't thank you enough for that. So remember, everyone, to have confidence. And just because what people look like